Hello everybody, it's Amiga Rob here, and today I thought I'd do something really fascinating and reinstall Workbench on this virtual hard drive I've got running in WinUAE. I've only ever had a virus once on an Amiga that I'm aware of, which happened about 25 years ago, and it didn't get very far because I had quite good practices, and it was a Byte Bandit virus that had somehow got onto a CU Amiga cover disk that somebody had given to me, and luckily I trapped it quite quickly because it used to throw up a message in the startup sequence when you were starting a disk after every so many boots, and I saw it and I knew what it was. And I had a 3.1 system installed on my PC, which I was using WinUAE, and the other day I got hold of some software which was Clarissa, which I have a license for, but I don't have a disk, or I don't have a way to get the disk off my Amiga at present because my real Amiga is not very well. So I downloaded it from somewhere, and I just thought, I'm not too sure about where I've downloaded this from, and I put a virus checker on it, and I've discovered I had something called Love Happy 96 or something, Happy New Year 96 I think it was, and I couldn't get rid of it, so in the end I just scrubbed the whole system, which is a bit annoying because I was hoping to use that Amiga setup to do some business. I want to get Vista Lite installed also, which I own a legitimate license for, because I want to do some animation for an intro for this channel, and yeah, that sort of put the kibosh on that. So I'm going to start from scratch, and I've got some legitimate Workbench 3.1 disks here. I've set up this configuration in WinUAE with quite a lot of memory. Oh, and I've got a fruit pie in the oven that's going to be ready in 20 minutes, so I'm going to have a break around that time. But yeah, I've got this configured with 2 megs of chip RAM, and it's saying 134 megs of fast RAM. I thought it was 128, but I don't know what's going on there. Now, there's a couple of ways you can install Workbench 3.1, and there is an installer, but I don't think there's actually any difference between using an installer or just dragging the icons onto there. So I've already got a few utilities and libraries ready to add. Oh, SWAS 1617, I've just discovered about that the other day, which is an update. I don't know when that got downloaded to there, but I can install that as well, I suppose. So here, I think I'm just going to start by dragging things over there. Now, I'm not sure. I think if I drag that over there, it's going to make a folder called Workbench 3.1 for me. So I think what I'll do is just to do a select all. Can I do select all? It's been a while since I've done this. Here we go, select contents. And then if I just oh no, that's not how you do it. If I do select contents now, if I do copy, it will try and copy each of those things. So is it a shift and a drag? Yes. So there we go. So that should start copying those across. Now, I've just realised how I think I did this last time, and it wasn't like this. So I've got the disk emulation set really fast, so it's just gone across really quickly, that stuff. I think I got everything. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to open a shell, and I'm going to try a different way with the next disk, which is going to be the extras disk. Now I just need to remind myself how this how do we do? No, I did that wrong. Right, that's it. So if I do copy, alright, I can find the old hash key as I managed to. Oh, there we go. It's above the 3, of course. So if I do copy DFO, that is the argument for a wildcard for everything. And then if I do it, so my hard disk is called System 3.1, and then all. I think that should do it, including the drive structure. Oh, what did I do? Copy DFO. Oh, so I've copied. So I actually copied the Workbench across again. But anyway, that's okay. Now, if I do extras 3.1, because you can do it via the volume name, because each disk on the Amiga has a volume name as well as a drive name, depending on what device it's inserted in. So I can copy it by that, and we can move all that stuff across. You see, cross DOS. Now the AmigaShell's not too bad actually, and it does a few things that Windows 10 has only just recently caught up with, but I do have an application I want to install that I used when I was using my Amiga full time, which was called KingCON, and I will do that once I've got everything else installed. So the other device name was Fonts, which I think some true colour, not true colour, the scalable fonts, and looks like all the normal fonts as well. Oh, I might have messed that up actually, because there's a font disk name, but there's also going to be the font directory, which I think. Okay. Let's see what drive fonts is it. DF2. Oh, I think I copied the right one. So, time to insert the next disks, which I will do in the background quietly. Of course, don't need to copy across the install disk because I'm not using that. So the remaining disks, I think, are locale and storage. So I own these operating system disks anyway, because I had them on the real Amiga. But if you don't have them, you can get them legitimately. There is a company by the name of Clalanto, I think they're called, or Calanto or something like that, who do Amiga Forever, currently on version 2017 I believe, and they can provide you with legitimate licensed Kickstart ROMs, which is the operating system ROM, and the all the other essential operating system files that comes on a CD or a download, and you can, and it's all set up, can be all set ready to go with WinUAE, and you can just leap straight in and do stuff. So it's always worth checking out those guys if you don't own licenses for this stuff. And last one is locale. And in theory, once that one's done, we should have Workbench installed on this virtual disk. Originally I was going to try and do this with the AROS ROM that comes built into WinUAE. And you could, in theory, I mean, in theory you don't need to have a licensed version of Workbench in order to use the Amiga stuff. You can use AROS, which is the Amiga replacement operating system, and there are versions out there that are designed to run 68K systems, and you can even run them on real Amigas. But in theory, you should be able to install the Workbench 3.1 on WinUAE out of the box without it using a Kickstarter. I was going to try that, but it looked a bit weird, and I just thought I don't want to mess around with that. So what I'm going to do first of all is eject all of the disks. Very strange sounds coming from outside of my flat, like a large bird or something flying out there. Yes, I'm taking out all those disks, and now I'm going to reboot, and hopefully this will boot straight from the disk, because it didn't. It didn't hang around, did it? Blimey. Right, now these folders are a bit of a mess, but the Amiga does come with a built-in way to organise these. So we select clean up, and then it puts them into some sort of order. Not a great order, but it'll do for now. And you do snapshot, and it remembers where they are. So that's fabulous. Now first thing I want to do is something that not many people did with their Amiga, particularly people that had decent screens, like I had the Philips, a common Philips Amiga monitor, and I had friends that had the Commodore equivalent, which was more or less the same monitor, CBM something or other Mark II it was called. Now what a lot of people didn't realise is that there was a vertical and horizontal hold on the back, and it tended to come preset to a very small screen area, but the Amiga had some quite good overscan tools, so the actual native resolution was actually a lot bigger than what was displayed. Now let's just see if we can set this. So at the minute this is in high res mode. It's getting scaled a bit before it actually gets to displayed on the screen, but what we can do with this is, where's the overscan? There it is. In theory you can go straight for that maximum size, so let me remember how right, okay, so there we go. You can go straight out to all that grey area on the screen, hit OK, and use that. It doesn't seem to actually look any bigger, so I'm not quite sure what good that's just done, unless we can do text size smooth. That needs to be done as well. That's better, right. So you could use this trick. I think there's still a gap at the side there. That might just be an emulation thing. And then you could adjust your screen settings and you'd get a bit more resolution. I mean, it's significant. It would certainly add a little bit more space on your screen and give you a bit more resolution. One of my friends used to use this very effectively. So that just gives us a bit more space on the screen now. Next step, what have we got? What are these files that I dumped in there? Could have done with putting these all in the folder really, but oops, looks like I've gone wrong at some point, because I've got all the fonts sitting in the root directory. Probably wanted them to go into the fonts directory. I'll have to tidy that up. Oh, I see, they're all in the root. So they're not actually put in a fonts folder, they're just sitting in the root. Okay, so we can fix that though, that's not too hard. So what we want to do, where's the fonts folder? Do I not have a fonts? Ah, maybe this is why it was telling me it couldn't find the fonts folder. Right, okay. So what we'll do is we'll go, let's get into a shell and do make system sys. Right, okay. Now, is there a way to move? Can't think if there is a way to move folders. So what we've got to do first is, if we close this and reopen it, we should see that fonts window come up somewhere here. I noticed that languages folder as well. I think that's supposed to be in a locale directory, so I may have made a proper mess up here, but there we go, there's the fonts folder. Right. Of course it's empty because I messed it up. So let's start shoving these things over. So I've made a right mess of this. But we can very quickly tidy it up. This is a great example of how not to set up your system. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be in there as well. Ruby's meant to be in there. It was a bit weird how bitmap fonts worked on the Amiga. You had a main font file, and then you had another directory with all the different sizes in there. I'm not convinced I like the system, but it worked, I suppose. The fonts that came with the machine were not that pretty. Scalable fonts were the big thing that came in with Workbench 2 and 3. Was it in 2? I'm not sure. Anyway, I think I messed up the locale as well, so yeah. So that's just showing the icons, and then let's tidy this up again. And hopefully this time it'll save it. So okay, DOS drivers. So this folder, this was quite clever. So any drivers you wanted to start, you wanted to have them in your DOS drivers folder, and then store. So they would start at boot, and there was a storage folder, which I've probably also not done correctly, which you leave the devices you didn't want to start up in. So I don't know if I've got a RAD drive booted yet. RAD drive was one of my favourite things, and I used that quite effectively on Workbench 1.3 to speed up general Workbench operations before I had a hard disk. It was a recoverable RAM drive, so it would actually create a RAM disk that when you rebooted it might still be there. It wasn't always. It didn't take much from a program that was a bit on the wonk to cause a problem. Let's fire that up and see if we get a RAD drive up here. There we go. Ramo. It used to be called, on Workbench 1.3 it would come up and it was called Rambo, so yeah, it's configured for 1 meg. So I think I configured it on my 1 meg Amiga 500 to have about 200k or something, but I used it, maybe less than that, maybe 100k, but I used it just to store a few things that I didn't want to use. I suppose it would have worked better if I'd used the resident command to put them in, but then there were other things that you couldn't make resident, and it would just made life a little bit easier and less disk swappy for me, and it made Workbench boot quite a bit faster if you knew what you were doing. So if you were using low memory applications, it could be quite useful. In fact, I think I'm going to try and show that now. I don't know if it's going to be supported in this, so we'll see if it does a true. We'll see. Oh, there goes my oven to tell me that my pie is ready. But before that, let's have a quick look. Oh, hang on, there's keymaps. Right, let's fix one thing before I do anything else. Uh-oh, spaghetti-o. Right, I think we need... where should keymaps be? It should be in devs. Maybe I should have used the installer. Maybe I'm just creating a lot of fuss for myself here. But I'll tell you what, let's just try and shove keymaps in that devs folder. Yeah, there is where it's meant to be. This drawer cannot be opened. Why can't that drawer? Ah, because it's just an icon, that's why. Because somebody's messed it up because he tried to get smart with his installations, so what we shall do is that Smarty Pants will take that. Yeah, there's definitely something I've messed up here. Smarty Pants, who didn't want to use the installer because he thought it would be more fun to just drag things in, and has now completely messed the whole thing up. And now is mislaid where that keymaps folder has gone. Where did it go? Oh, I just... Keymap. Oh, there they are, there. From my eyes, right, I didn't even need to. Right, so this folder should be in here. Right, okay, let's delete that. It's taken quite a while to delete that. Alright, alright. Let's try this, see if this fixes it. This drawer also cannot be opened. I think this is beginning to turn into a mess. Reset that and see if that sorts that out. I could have sworn when it was over here, it still can't be opened. This is starting to not look good. I wonder what I've broken here. Well, I think one thing we can do is start putting in the disks where that maybe they were supposed to be, when I decided that I was too big and clever for installing this correctly. The keymaps there. Keymaps. Right, let's try this. Right. It's in the root, isn't it? Yeah. Keymaps. To sys and devs. try that, see what happens. Now I'm sure there's a reason why it's not letting me get in there. Maybe it just needs to refresh. How strange. Right, I can try then if it's getting confused. I've forgotten a lot of the... What is iType? I've copied it all into the root directory, haven't I? There we go, right, I think I'm beginning to see what I've done wrong here. I think. Uh-huh. Huh. Well done there. Amiga Rob, you've made a right mess of this. So let's just get this. Let's see if I can actually shift. Is it shift? There we go. Doink. Right. Okay then, so I think I should now be able to go. Where's keymap? Right. Don't know if that's enough to get it to change how it uses the keyboard. Don't believe it is. There we go. Input keymaps. Right, this needs a reboot. I'm pretty sure of, so let's reset him again. That's a bit more like it. We do that. Use, in fact, it should be save, and then oh, there we go. Keyboard is all set. Oh no, nearly set up correctly. Oh blimey, I've lost the hash key again. Oh no, I haven't. There it is. It's sitting exactly where it shouldn't be. Okay. I'm getting somewhere now. It's maybe not the most ideally configured machine. Yeah, because that DOS drivers is not sitting in the storage folder, is it? There's supposed to be a file called storage, that's why. And I did lose my recoverable drive on this, so the emulator probably doesn't support that. So, if I do show, what is actually on storage? Data types, monitors, DOS drivers, printers, keymaps, right, so I should have had let's get this right, it should be called storage. What I should have done is storage. If I do that, got this, then I should have data types in there, and I should have monitors in there. most of these things I should probably actually have sitting in the thing. DOS driver should be in there. Printers should be in there. We've already dealt with keymaps. So now let's tidy that up again. Okay, starting to look a little bit better now. I've lost my overscan, so let's have a quick look. I probably didn't edit that correctly. Hopefully that'll stick through a reset. Yep. Ah, okay. Well, I've just paused to go and eat my fruit pie, which I'm really regretting now. It was horrible, but where was I? Let's see. Oh yeah, I just sorted out those folders. So I guess the thing I should do next is get myself a shell. Whatever happened to that shell window? They've moved it there. I don't like that. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do is move the shell down to there. I think I can snapshot that to there. So I just click there in future. Right. Right, I think the first thing I want is LHAR or LHA or whatever it is, de-archiver, so I can start getting some of these useful tools de-archived. Is that right? De-archived or expanded? Oh, that pie. What a mistake that was. Oh dear. I'm just thinking if I'm going to run this, I think it's going to expand into this directory, so maybe if I do... Oops. Can I do that? Right, so if I just type lh.run, see, because it's a... There we go, it's self-extracting. Can't help but think that I've downloaded an old version of this, but and we're just going to use the straight 68k version. So if I just do copy LHAR, for those who are not aware, the Amiga has default assigned volume names for particular folders, so all of the commands should really go, DOS command should go into a folder called C, which is normally the system folder. So if I do this, copy LHAR 68kc, then if I just get it to call it LHAR, now you don't need to have any backslashes or anything like you do with Microsoft DOS. Then we should find, if I do a dirc, it's just off the screen. There you can see it's just sitting there. Now anything in this folder, this C folder, just to show you where this is, what did I do? Yeah, okay. So it's just the same folder as doing a dirc, which is also a volume name sys, because the actual assigned volume name, the actual volume name is system 3.1. So you have drive names and you have volume names, and the volume names are actually you can use them like device names, and sys is the default system directory, and it gives me the volume name. Now I'm pointing at the screen when I should be moving the pointer because you can't actually see my finger, so I need to rethink that. There's tons of stuff here. I don't know what magtape is. What does magtape do? Normally you can just type a question mark afterwards. Device, then a rewind. Must be for tape backups. I wonder if that came in 3.1 because I don't remember seeing it in 3.0. And you've got, I don't know, another example. Mount allows you to mount a device, and it'll do that. Look at the DOS drivers folder, I think, to see what's there in storage. remrad, in theory, removes that rad drive that I created earlier, but in this emulator it disappears anyway because it seems to wipe the memory when you do a reboot. So I've got Elha, right, so the next one I want to do is KingCON because I don't like the standard shell that Amiga had. Started off with a shell called CLI, command line interface, which was quite limited, and then AmigaShell came in with Workbench 1.3 and that gave you command history and stuff like that. But KingCON is a really good upgraded version. Third party public domain program. So if I do and it does stuff again, stuff which was nicked from that and ended up in Windows down the line. In fact, Windows eventually had a DOS before Windows. With DOS, they eventually copied some of the features. You had to run another command on the Microsoft DOS, and it would give you it'd be able to clone some of these features like complete and pass. So let me get this KingCON installed. So let's just have a look in this folder because I can't remember what it was called. There it is, KingCON 1.3.elhan. So and I'm copying it to RAM because this RAM disk, this is great, this RAM disk. Again, it's something they copied eventually on Microsoft DOS. And I think it's pretty much disappeared. I don't think you really see this anymore. But the RAM disk is a volatile volume here, so you can put stuff in here, and it's actually stored in memory. But it's a filing system, so I can copy that shell across there and load it from there, and no problem at all. But when I reboot, that'll be gone because it's stored in memory. It's really useful. Very useful if you don't want to be creating files on disk, like I'm doing here, just for this. For extracting this program, so just make it easier to change there. So I'm going to actually, as this isn't a self-extracting archive, I'm just going to extract it right now, and then it will be extracted straight into this RAM drive. And do these refresh? Let me remind myself. So it won't refresh automatically. You normally have to close the window and open them again. And I can't get it to do that, so there we go. Something they could have done with the introducing, actually. Right. Now, I'm not sure if I've got the installer set up on here. There is. We can have a look if we go to information. No, it'll install itself. So without the official installation program. So with an Amiga icon, what you get is, let's do a DOR on that system. So you can see you've got the folders here, but for folders where they have a visual icon, there's actually a file that has an icon. So for example, this archive here, swas1617.elha, there's no swas1617.elha.info, so you don't see an icon for it by default. Priorities here. You don't see an icon for it by default in this window. You can do show all files, and then it will show you everything, even the stuff that doesn't have an icon. Whereas if I stick this shell up there, it does have an icon, and you'll see if I get my shell back, that the shell does have an icon there. Now ironically, because the shell is it doesn't actually have another file, it is an icon that then calls a ROM procedure. It doesn't actually have a file, but what you do have is a tool type which calls the CLI as its default tool. So this is effectively saying I'm a data file, use this tool to open me, and all that tool does when it opens is says, right, what are the tool types, and these are just like conditions, so you can use these like conditions as if you were in a shell a lot of the time. It reads those conditions and opens the file, and what it's doing, it opens the shell window. So here you can see it's got the size, it's got what the title needs to be in there, and to give it a close gadget, gives it a stack size, and it then says to run the configuration that's in the shell startup, and S shell startup, and S is the volume name you get for the startup directory. So if I do a dir and S, you can see there's a few startup sequences here. I'm not quite sure what dpat or pcd or spat is, but startup sequence is what gets run as soon as you start the Amiga. Shell startup is what's run when you open a shell, and ed startup is what's run when you run the text editor. Now I can show you startup sequence. I'm going a bit off the beaten track here, but so I just need to so you can see here a bunch of commands. Startup sequence for low density floppies, so there must have been a high density floppy boot at some point. Bearing in mind that the only machines that had high density floppy drives, I think, were the 3000, Amiga 3000 and the 4000s. You would hope that they'd have hard disks installed, so slightly curious, but anyway. So here you can see first thing it does, set patch, which is patching the ROMs, the hardware ROMs or software ROMs. It was possible with the 3000. Originally came with a beta ROM that you used to kick into a software, do a soft kick of the actual final ROMs into memory. And what's it doing there? It's asking for version and it's not outputting the version. Must be to set a clause somewhere. Add buffers. I guess it's adding some buffering to the DFO. Disk drive 0. DFO stands for disk floppy 0. Fail at 21. Oof. I can't remember what any of that means. It's just setting up some directories in memory in the RAM disk. Some volatile things. Some programs use these. Not many. Use these folders to store stuff temporarily. The equivalent on Windows would be the temp folders now. Now this is where you get the massive advantage of having a RAM drive, because on Windows you get these temp files created, and when you switch off your machine they're still there if the application doesn't delete them properly, and that's when you start getting masses and masses of files just stacking up that can take away quite a lot of space from your disk, but they can also, depending on what your file system is, start adding time to your disk access, because the disk structure, as you add files to it, starts to become more unwieldy and you start getting delays. And I'm not really explaining it very well, but it can have an impact. I think the newer formats are not quite susceptible to that. Again, a load of stuff. I mean, very little of this is essential in order to actually run. All these commands where it has this output to nil is to stop it outputting the result of the commands to the window. So it's redirecting. It's got a like a pipeline system where this nil is a device that just blanks off. It's just a null device. So you can redirect the text output from this command to the nil device, and it means that you don't get any report of it. So this command resident is moving the C assign into memory, so you don't need to have a disk in drive in order to use it. Now, they might not bother with a hard disk, a dedicated hard disk boot up, because it should in theory always be sitting in the C directory. And then the same here with execute. Now what you could do if you wanted to is, if you ran this from the shell, you could say resident and then do the redirect to I think it's PRT for the printer, it might be PRN : and then do the rest of the command, and then the output would go directly to the printer and it would be printed as a text output. So I don't even know if printers support text output anymore. They might do, legacy, but on printers at that time you did have dedicated text mode, so it would just fly out. It didn't need to go through any graphics driver or anything to interpret into data. It would just get fired out and the font was built into the printer. And again, you've got the same thing happening with these assigns. I'm definitely getting really far off the beaten track where I was going. And it's just doing things to try and have clauses for depending on what type of system you've got. It's quite a long startup sequence actually. And there's ifs and end ifs and all these kind of clauses. On the 1.3 Workbench 1.3 startup sequence, they actually had a secondary startup sequence which they got rid of. And there were some interesting tools that did really small changes so that you could have a user startup. In fact, they did have a user startup in Workbench 2, I think. So interesting. It looks like that went at some point. Anyway, I'm getting off the point here. I wanted KingCON, and I've got a feeling I'm going to need to get some other folders as well. So let's have a look. So it was KingCON, and what I want to do is expand. Yeah, I've already expanded that to memory. So, oh yes, that's right. So I was saying that this icon here, what we're doing in the installer, if we have a look at the information on the file, so its default tool is C icon X, which I guess is short for icon execute, and it tells it here to open a window. And this here is actually a text script, and icon X is the tool you set when you want to run the script from an icon. So we can actually go back into that application ed. If I go, I go to RAM and do CD KingCON. Now I have to type the whole name at the minute, and once I've got this installed, hopefully I won't need to. So right, installation. If we go ed installation, here we go. So you can actually see the installation script here. Fail at 21. Blah blah blah. Now here we go, echo, so that just prints out onto the screen. Now you could type echo, do the command, and then at the end have one of those redirects to the printer or to nil, and it would blank it out. Or you could direct it to an entirely separate window if you did it to con. So let's have a look what it does. Right, okay, so like one of the first things it's doing is checking what version. I mean, this is quite powerful, the Amiga operating system, the commands you've got available. So what it's doing is it's going down, looking in the L volume, which is where you get a lot of handlers and files that support programs, and it's actually checking the version number, and if it sees that it's, let's check, if not worn. So it's asking if it's the minimum of a certain version number, and if it isn't, it tells you that it's trying to install over a you're trying to install an older version over the current one. Or so it's real simple, and if it doesn't get, I think worn is a straightforward condition that's set, so it's like a single variable you've got. So if you get worn set, then you can if you ask something, it'll give you a worn or not worn or something like that. And I think worn is when you hit the Y, and if it's not worn, if you hit N or anything but Y, it gets set to not worn. But you get the same thing if you're anything with any if instruction. So it's quite powerful. It's not exactly basic, but it's quite powerful. That's worth knowing. It check for okay, so another command lets you check the CPU, and it alters which version of the handler, whether it's the 020 optimized one. I really don't see the point of having the optimized, I guess, because they don't expect you to be switching processors every 3 seconds like you might be these days. And then it's got the, oh, it can unmount previous versions. Now, I like to replace it completely. I hope it's going to completely replace the actual device. Yes, it is. So the shell windows are created with a volume name called con, and it used to be NewCon, but then when they introduced the shell, the revised version of the CLI, but this changes it back. Okay, so it didn't really need to go into that, but let's run it and see if it falls over. For a more permanent installation, you would probably like to mount it automatically every time you start your Amiga. In that case, the startup sequence must be modified by adding these lines to user startup. Yes, but what I do want is it to... No, I don't think I've got a user startup, so I don't know if it can have done that. So to replace the old column, I'll add the following lines to S user before the mount commands. Right, well, we can do that. Can I copy that? I don't think I can. Right, well, we can do that anyway. So I don't think we have a user startup in this, so I do have a user startup now because I think it's just created it, but let's see. Because I'm pretty sure nothing calls that user startup. Yeah, I've got a very big feeling this doesn't get called by anything. So what was it they want me to put in there? Is it assigned? This is now getting complicated. David Larson wrote this thing. Absolutely brilliant piece of software, by the way. KingCON. Assign, can't dismount. Right. Oh, no, get this right. So to save this, you have to do escape X. Right. Right. So let's do add startup sequence again. No, I messed that up because I did it in the wrong folder. It's trying to do it in this RAM drive, so Is there an execute user startup there? I think not. Oh no, it does. If exists S user startup. There we go then. Right. So if I reboot this now, I think we should find that I have. Right, this is looking promising. So, it's not worked, and I've got a problem now because now there's no con device. So ooh. Right, so what I could do, that's the right way to do this. Oh no. User startup needs it as well. Right, okay, I've got an idea. So what I need to do is squeeze the rat's ears. Nope, missed it. If you hold down both mouse buttons, when the Amiga boots up, in theory, before it gets to the boot up screen, it should give you booting up options, but it's going too quick for me to actually get in there. So no, I've missed it again. Have I missed it again? Yeah, I missed it again. What I'm trying to do is get it to boot up with no startups. I'll tell you what I could try. I could try hitting Control D at startup. I'm trying to break it so I've got a... No, I don't have a con window. I'll tell you what I could do then. There's one other thing I could try. If I copy that, and then I go information, and I just change that to KCON. Save that. There we go. Right, so now I've got it to open in the KCON window, because what I did was I changed this so that it opened in the new device called KCON. Now, but I don't want to do that. I want this to just replace the standard con. So the problem is, because I dismounted con in the this is going to be trickier than I thought it was. Right, I know what I can do. Right, all I need to do is rename S startup, because that's where the problem is. This is why they have the user startup. So you can rename it without damaging anything else. Try that. Where's it gone? Where have I just moved it? Oh right, okay, so the rename moves it as well. Okay, fine. So if I now restart this machine, I should find that I now have my shell back. There we go, there's my shell. Right, let's have a look at that. First of all, let's let's use K. No, KCON's not mounted now, is it? Right. So if I do add S user, notice user startup suspended. Notice that there's no .text or anything at the end of it. You don't have to have 3-layer extensions in Workbench. Right. So there's a mount list. Right. Okay, it's working from a mount list. That's fine. So what I can do. Oh, it's got a menu in this one. What I can do. Right. I go into this mount list. Right, okay, so in here it's specifying that there's a device name KCON and KRAW. Now what I'm going to do is just change these to CON and RAW, so that when we mount from this mount list, instead of mounting KCON and KRAW, we're going to mount CON. So these should just drop in and replace everything that CON and oops, didn't mean to do that. We can just use it to replace everything that CON would be called for. So in theory, I should now have this wonderful new thing working. So let's reset. Okay, let's see what happens. So let's go back to the standard. There we go, now it's opening, and here we go. So we've now got KingCON, which is a much better implementation of this shell system. You get menus that you do all kinds of quality stuff, complete file name, command and device, show.info, that's a new one. The most important thing for me is that you can say, like if I do a dir, you can also, if you want more information, do list actually, which is something that Microsoft DOS could also do with, because I think generally when you do a dir you get this kind of view, whereas sometimes you just want that. So let's say, what was the next thing I want to open? Actually, have I got a... Let's say I want to open, complete a file, so complete a file name, so that rectools, this one here, rectools. So if I just type rec and now I hit the tab key, it just automatically completes it. But say I just type the tab key, it then gives me this file requester and I can just select, say that one, and it brings it up. So what I want to do is get rid of that. So I can just okay, and then hit return, and it deletes it for me. Beautiful. So starts to make life a bit easier. Now the next thing I want to do is get VirusZ installed. Let's see if I've somehow got any other viruses lurking around. So I'm going to use that command lh I put earlier on here, which is sitting in the C drive, in the C directory, so it automatically looks in C for commands when I type them here. I think I could even make lh resident. I don't know, let's have a look. Let's see what happens. Maybe it's only certain commands you can do that with. Okay, so if I do lhe, then I want VirusZ. I just hit that tab, it completes it for me, and I want it to go to RAM. And there's my RAM disk, and oh, it's got an icon this, and it's miles down. And there's an install. Unable to open my tool, install. Great, so this actually uses a dedicated installer application, which I don't think I've got on here at present, but there might be a version present on the installer disk, so maybe I did need to install that as well. Let's have a look. So there's a version of installer there, so if I copy DFO, a couple of options, installers I want to see. This is probably a really old version of installer, but it might do the job. So let's just have a quick look, because what it's doing is, oh no, I'm looking at the drawer, silly me. So the installer, its tool type is set to, or its default tool is set to C installer, and if it doesn't find that, it won't install. But here we go, this is it now, it's found it, and this is the installer application, so we'll do it on the intermediate. I generally go for the default because I don't know why they give options for expert user. I think it's just to massage the ego of people who think they're expert users, because sometimes it would muck everything up. So install for real, or you can pretend, but no, we're going to install for real, Marty. It's real. It's really real. So, so we'll just put it into, I'll tell you what, we'll put it in utilities. Right, and straight away it tells me you need certain libraries that are missing. I'll tell you a bit about libraries. The Amiga had a great system. This is the equivalent of DLLs on the PC. Something else that Windows and Microsoft nicked, I would say. I mean, so much stuff was nicked from the Amiga's operating system. By the way, this KingCON has this great scrolling bar as well, so you can go back through the stuff. It's a great system. They should have integrated it fully into the operating system. Maybe they did in later releases. So yeah, where you have dynamic link libraries on Windows, on the Amiga you have libraries, which is part of the heritage of Unix and Tim King's original system that Workbench was and AmigaDOS was based on, called Tripos or Tripos or something like that, which is I think it's a reference to something they do at Cambridge. So what am I doing here? Right, so I need to get hold of RecTools library, which I've got. So yeah, there's the volume name for the library folder is libs, and you can see all the libraries here. These are just the basic ones that come with, and these things do like loads of quality stuff basically. So like ASL.library is the standard Amiga requester library, and it handles this thing here. And at one point there were lots of custom libraries that the Amiga used, and in fact there is a patch I remember I was using that used an enhanced version called RecTools, which is this one that we're about to bring in, because this is a third-party library that has a slightly different requester, but you could patch it so that you could use RecTools instead of ASL library. But it's a really good requester. This is they really started to get it together with the version 2 operating system, which that came with, and the requesters were a little bit on the wonk sometimes, and custom requesters. When they brought in Workbench 2.0 and Kickstarter 2.0, they really tried to standardize a lot of system functions. For example, with the datatypes, the datatypes library there handles it, which is basically, there's a folder on this on the system called datatypes, and these are really the proper first codecs, except on the Amiga you could use them to handle pretty much anything. So if I just look at the ones that are in the storage, yeah, there's nothing in storage there. But if I look in devs, data types, you'll see these are all basically codecs, and the way they worked was much smarter than the way that PCs work, and really I think the Mac works with OS X. It would, instead of just saying, oh, what's the extension of the file, which is a real weakness on Microsoft Windows, because you can hang the whole system if you know what you're doing. It would read the first few bytes where there'd be a header which would identify the data type, and then it would look in this folder to see if it's got a way to open it if you're using the standard Amiga viewer or any application that supported it. So for example, Multiview is the one here, so this same application could view a range of different data types. Anything that appeared here it could open. For example, the standard Amiga guide format, which was like a hypertext format, manual format, which is much better than the plain text file. You could spread everything into different categories. Just see, VirusZ might have a hypertext. Let's see. No, it's just a straight document file, but again, it's opened in Multiview. Oh, what's this? Yeah, so it just tells you a bit of stuff. Again, yeah, just text open in Multiview, but the same application could open pictures or anything you threw at it, pretty much. So yeah, so there's this 8SVX is 8-bit sounds, which were in IFF format, because the standard Amiga format was IFF, the original format. IFF is often mainly applied to sounds and images, but actually covered a range of formats. IFF ILBM interleaved bitmap format was an image file, and anim was an animation file, and that's just a standard text. CDXL was a video format that was created for the CD-TV, the first Amiga CD system, which was not branded as an Amiga, and I'll be looking at more in a new video I'm working on at the minute. But yeah, that was a kind of full motion video. It was full motion, but not necessarily full screen. But yeah, all these things are supported in that application in Multiview by whatever data types here, and other applications. For example, art packages could potentially take advantage of these data types. And you could get data types for JPEG and PNG and stuff like that, and the programs would just open it up. So it was one of the first, in fact I would say superior data type codec system. On Microsoft Windows, even in Windows 10, if you take a video file, it's possible to even just change the extension and completely hang Explorer if it doesn't see what it's expecting. And if you change the 4cc code on a video, you can completely hang the system. Even if it's just from one codec to a very slightly different codec, you can completely lock everything up, including any disk access. So if you do a list on the directory, it will freeze when you actually get to that file, and the only way you can get around it is to go to a DOS shell and to delete the file from there, because otherwise it starts parsing it for some reason, and it just crashes whatever reads it. I'm amazed that Microsoft haven't looked at that. I should probably call them up with that. There might be a what do you call it? A ransom? No, not a ransom. You're probably screaming at the screen, if there's anybody who's still watching this, probably be going, it's a bounty, that's it. Mutiny over the bounty. Right, what am I doing? Right, so yeah, I want to get this library installed. So it was rectools, wasn't it? So let's just change directory to system. Now you might notice that if I type system, I change to that directory. It's not like on Microsoft DOS or Windows where you type a volume name or a drive name and you're still in the same folder. You actually go to that root folder. So let me just dir again. What was it? It's rectools, isn't it? So if I do I can't remember if I've already extracted this yet. I think I did, didn't I actually? No, I didn't. I might have done. I'll do it again. Rectools, and then just do it to RAM. It's right about 1 million. There's a guide file there actually. So I can show you right now. So there's rectools.guide. This is an AmiGuide file, and you can see it's proper hypertext. Not incredibly dissimilar to the earliest websites, really. You can just leap back to where you need to go. Oh no, there we go. Actually, rectools is a really good request, and it was designed by this guy Nico Francis, who did some really amazing stuff for the Amiga. Fantastic coder. And it looks like this chap Magnus Holmgren took it over. They should get this guy on the Retro Hour. I bet he's got some interesting stories. I think I'm going to email Dan Wood about that. So yeah, let me get out. What's this RT patch? Oh, it's been request a patch. Introduction. Root function most popular request libraries to rectools. So this is what I was talking about. This thing where you can change it to a rectools. So maybe I can try that. This is quite good when you've got things that use really old systems that don't look so great. This can jump in and really make a big difference. So maybe I'll try that RT patch. Oh, there it is there. Right, let's install it properly then. I was just going to copy the library across, but we'll do it properly. Intermediate user. Install for real, multi-real, rectools, don't use any of that stuff. Rectools library, rectools preferences. Yeah, let's do that and let's make sure it installs them. Where would you like to install the preferences? Sysprefs, yeah, that'll do me. Yeah, you can install the help file there. Which language should be installed? English, thank you. Ooh. And it's going to automatically install this RT patch. Well, for now, I think I'll just ask it to put it in the root folder because it's trying to put it in WB startup, which will mean it automatically runs when we start up the machine, and I can move it there myself if I want to do that. Proceed. Okay, so I'm guessing this is now available. So, rectools demo. So. Different types of requesters, the large, information, a bit of text, It's the file requester we're interested in. So this is stuff coders could take advantage of. Got it. Not really. I wish this would go away now. Okay, this is going on and on. I'm looking for a file requester. I probably shouldn't have opened this. And I don't think there's any easy way for me to close an application on this. There you go. Here's a file requester. So it doesn't look hugely different to the file requester on the ASL file requester. I don't even think it's worth patching, really. They're very similar. Does this have any menu options? I guess the only real difference I can see is that what does get mean? Don't know, .info. Oh, it's whether it shows the info files. Let me have a look. System. Let's go somewhere where there's info files. Let's try. No, it doesn't show the info files, does it? Interesting. Okay, because I might want to select those file names, right? Well, I'll think about that, but anyway. Please go away. Please go away. This isn't ever going to go away, is it? Okay, I just want to kill this. Please go. Screen mode, kickstart. Okay. Right. Anyway, that's a dependency for VirusZ. So, maybe I should have done this as a live stream because I feel quite relaxed and everything now. It's probably never going to be seen by anyone watching it randomly. It's going on forever. But anyway, let's have a look. System. Oh, that's right. There's one thing about this, it's a bit difficult to get screens to the front. It's something they have got better. There is a click to front option somewhere, but I've never really gone with that. Right. I've got rectals, XFD master. Yeah, I can give that because I'm sure I've got that. Yep. And this is a library for a decompression system. And I'm just going to copy the library. I'm not going to install everything on this. This is like a what we would have called in the past disk stacker. Right. Now I think I can show something else I can do here. If I do copy and I go like that. That's it, I can just drag that into there. Something that I think Windows has copied eventually. But I don't think it happened until very recently. And then I can just copy that straight to the libraries. And these are all different. Ooh. These are all different compression methods. Because this system would recompress. I used to use this. I had a 60 gig drive, a 60 meg drive, sorry, and I used to use this system to just squeeze a bit more space onto it. But there's loads more routines than there was when I had it. And somewhere I've got a disk that's crunched with this stuff that I need to reinstall this thing so I can get into it. If it still works. I can't remember what method I used. Hopefully it can tell. It should have. No, I'm not sure. Anyway. Suppose I should copy that as well, because it might need that. No, that's thinking about things the Windows way. I thought it was going to copy the thing to a. Well, it doesn't matter. I don't need to delete that. It's enough non-volatile memory. So if I just do this, so I think I know where I went wrong before. So if I go this. Now I ended up copying this all to a root directory before, because what I should have done is gone libs and that should just say xfd. Hopefully that'll no. Just to make sure I don't mess this up. Oh, I know what's wrong. No, copy command invalid. Oh, look. It's as simple as this. It's missing one of them. Let's have a look there. Libs. XFD. There we go. So that's all the methods anyway. Help if I brought it to the front so we could see it. So, right. So what was the other dependency? Rectals XVS library. I might have to go and download this from somewhere because I'm not sure. What does that do? I can't find your window now. Could be dangerous. No, cancel please. That's the kind of exciting thing you get with the Amiga because it hasn't got protected memory. It can accidentally write over some area of memory or something, cause a problem, so maybe that's why that was warning me. Anyway, what am I trying to do? I'm not any closer to installing Vista Lite yet, so oh no. Have I got that XVS? Doesn't look like I've got that XVS thing, so I'm gonna have to do, oops, is just quickly pad for a second as I rush off the AmiNet on the Windows side, which you can't see. And download this XVS library. There we go. Oh, it's a virus checking library. Wonderful. And I'm now saving it to the folder. It's taking forever this, isn't it? Right, so I'm now saving it to the root folder. This folder, my system folder here, this system folder is actually just a folder on my PC, and WinUAE treats it as if it's a drive. The Amiga knows is none the wiser. So what I've done now, so in the background that should be there. So if I do a dir now, that XVS library is there because I downloaded it straight. So much easier. This would have been in the past. I probably would have had to gone to a PC or got a modem and try to get to a bulletin board and find it, and I would have to wait till the right time of day so the calls didn't cost too much. Not very good. XVS library RAM. Right, I think I'll do a proper install of this. Oh, will I? Let's have a look and see what's actually installed. Show files. XVS, readme. History. Oh, hang on, let's try that, see what the install does. Proceed, expand these install scripts. Install for real. But would you like to contact the author or visit VirusZ? Open URL is required. Oh, it's trying to actually send me to a website. It shows it's fairly recent. No. Okay, well hopefully that's that installed. Let's have a look and see if it's there. There we go, XVS library, so that handled that. What else is there that we need? There's a few recommendations, but I don't think I'm going to bother with them. XAdd master library. Optional for scanning inside archives. I'm not going to do that. Disassembler.library not found. Optional for disassembling memory. I don't think I'm going to do that right now. Okay. Would you like to send a quick message to the author of VirusZ? There's no. I mean, who makes an installer that does that these days? I mean, could you imagine that installing something that says, "Oh, do you want to send a message to the, you know?" What will it do? Let me just see. What would it do? Yeah, we'll visit them. I don't think I've got a web browser. No, it's not going to work. I don't know if I can get a web browser working on this. Right, anyway, so VirusZ. So what I want to do is hopefully I'm not going to find some viruses lurking, because then I'm going to have to start looking at my ADFs generally, and maybe some legacy virus. This Happy New Year 96 or whatever it was called is apparently doesn't actually do much damage. It just writes itself to a few bytes of each file. I mean, you don't know what's going on these days with these things, do you? So, alright, I put it in utilities, didn't I? Oh, it's in its own folder. That's great. That's not really the greatest of installers, is it? Okay. Right then, so I think I've installed everything I was going to install initially, because now I want to get Vista Lite installed, which I do have a license for, as I said. I have the original discs. I don't actually have a way to get them into this emulator at present. I got that Vista Lite, I think, at the last show I went to, and at the same time I think I bought a memory expansion which is 4 megs with an FPU Magna RAM, which somebody has got and hasn't returned to me, so even if I could get my Amiga working, I don't think I would be able to run anything on it. I would like to get that back actually. I think it's a 40 or 50, I think it was a 40 meg 40 megahertz accelerator FPU on it, which was probably faster than the CPU could feed it anyway, so it's probably slightly pointless, but anyway, so yeah, I did find Vista Lite. It was on a CU Amiga cover disk that I managed to download offline, and it does seem like it's pretty much just the original release. If I can just remember where I saved it, I'm just virtually inserting it into the drive. Here we go, I think this is the one. There we go. Sometimes you have to move these things around. This is one of the great things as well. You get that when you put a disc in or you insert a new volume, you actually get a proper icon appear on your screen, which is one of the great things about the Amiga Workbench. Right, let's see if we can just... Oh, it's scanning the disk for me. Have to be careful with CU Amiga, because I did actually once release a... Oh, I can actually check files, brilliant. They did once release a release that had a virus on it, a cover disk. Oh, that's it, that's what I want. That looks alright to me. Maybe I can check the files on this system partition as well, if I do all. Rattling through, yep, I was happy with that. Okay, well, I trust you. Let's install Vista Lite, which is a world building application, like a fractal based thing. It's really good. I think mine came on one disk. Oops, and it's still problem in ensue. That's not very good. It didn't even ask me where I wanted to put it. Sorry, let's switch to expert user. Let's have a quick look and check it hasn't already. Vista Lite, oh well. How much does it put in there? Let's see if it runs. That says Vista Lite 3. Oh, 3.0. Maybe it's newer than the one I had. Keyboard corners moved. Okay. Oh, well, it's booted, so I'm happy anyway. It's loaded, I should say, rather than booted. Right. So what am I doing here? Right, so I need to create a seed. So I think that's the camera. Do I control that with the right mouse button? Oh, okay, that's the camera. Oh, I can change it with that. Brilliant. Okay. Now what I need is a fractal. So this area here is like a, what do we call it? It's a bump map, a height map. It's a topographical map, is it? Demographical? Forget. This screen's a little bit small. Can I make it any bigger? I can't do it by clicking in there, I know that. Graphics mode. It's only got NTSC modes. Why is it doing that? Not working in NTSC. Must be getting muddled somewhere along the line here. I know my one definitely worked in PAL. Okay, anyway, let's get a fractal. Ah, there we go. Is it? Hang on, island. Ah, this is what I want. Right, okay, so what I could do is see how fast this renders in the emulation. This used to take an hour to render a single image. Sometimes on some of the machines I had, so that's high quality. Alright, so let's just stick it to medium. Let's just do a render. Let's see what it. Unable to view screen. Oh, and it crashed. Okay. Maybe I haven't got it installed properly. Let's go back to this installer. Yes, just have a mess. Dem files are the like demographic files that uses the height maps, scripts, all kinds of stuff here. Had a problem. I wonder if it's run out of disk space because I'm running this in a really small volume on the PC, and it hasn't complained. No, there's a few megs free. Well, this could well be where this comes screaming to a halt. That's weird. I can't. I wonder if it's because I don't have the screen modes in the right folder. Right, that could well be it. Let me quit out of this. Storage. Yeah, I reckon this could be part of the problem. Let's see. Probably completely wrong. Well, let's bung the whole lot. Let's bung the whole lot across. Devs, and then we want to have. God, I don't even have the power one in there. Let's get this right. Uh-oh, spaghetti. Oh, there's no folder there. Oh no, not make yard. That's it. They are. Debs. Right. Let's try this now. What did I just do? I'm sure I just typed make the yard debs. That's wrong. Right, that should work now. In theory, I should now be able to open that. That's it. The mysteries are slowly starting to unravel. Oh, and I can select one of them. That's lovely. More things that Windows eventually pinched. Oh no, that's unfortunate because what I did need to do was go. Let's see if this fixes this silly problem. If I select that, hopefully, and if I then go back to Vista Lite, and we create a random fractal here, we stick a camera there, and we make the target up there somewhere. No, I'll just make the camera over there. That's not too bad, right? Let's just see what happens with me. It's bombed out again. Let me try resetting actually, let's see if that makes any difference. I've lost my overscan again. And everything looks a bit strange as well in the emulator now. I think by having that device in there, it's slightly changed everything. That's no, it's set to maximum. Strange. I think I've ruined everything now. I think I had everything working beautifully, and then I went and put those folders in there, and it's ruined it. All the fonts look strange. Anyway, let's get back into Vista Lite. Oh, now this looks slightly different. Looks like it's at least slightly promoted the screen mode. Right, let's make ourselves a random thingy. Ah, okay, maybe that did fix it. Okay, that's pretty rubbish. That's a pretty rubbish image. Let's try this one. Okay, so I'm using the ham mode here, which is 4096 colours, but I actually have ham 8 available, and let's do it in 640 by 400. Okay. in Ultra. Let's see how that looks. Takes a bit longer to render now. Okay. Sorry, I was a bit quick there, wasn't I? I'm just trying to find myself a spot to give a good indication of how this application works. And what I want to do is set that camera a lot higher actually on the Z axis. Not that I want to try out. And I want to have the target be about here. Let's have a look at that now. Okay, so it's starting to get something a little bit more useful. So maybe if I move this camera, let's just lock it on that Z axis. Maybe it's about there, let's see what we get. Not anything radically different, to be fair. I think I'm probably a little bit too high up here, so... No, I've locked that, I've forgotten about that. Doesn't even let you change it if you manually write it in then. Okay, this is starting to get a little bit better, so I'm just going to drop that down. This was probably one of my favourite applications on the Amiga, and probably the main reason I bought the FPU. Probably could have done better off with an accelerator, but they were a bit more expensive. Okay, this is a bit more like it. So if I just set that to high, just to give a better idea of what we're looking at. It looks a bit more mountainy. Doesn't look great though. Set it to winter so maybe we'll get some snow on the caps there. It's a little bit more like it, I guess. Maybe I prefer autumn. Some happy little trees there. Out there somewhere. Little cabin at the bottom of the... Yeah, I think I'm getting there. Let's have it at sunrise. Some happy little things happening. Well, that's terrible, that sunrise thing. God, what do they think of that palette set? Let's try sunset. Yeah, that's awful as well. I think I'll stick with daylight. And what I'm going to do while I'm here is just save this demographic file. Because I could sort of like this one. See, this is an example of a non-standard requester. It's a bit ugly. I wish I could get the decent... Maybe this is crippled so it doesn't have power resolutions in it. I'm going to have to dig out my proper disk. Because I don't really want to do it in these resolutions. I'm sure I had much higher resolutions available to me. Anyway, Ham8 is pretty good. So, I think I'm going to get rid of this one actually. That's a bit more like it. Maybe I want to... I think that sets the major... Right, okay. Now we're talking turkey, so... There we go, here's the camera. I want to set it to about 3,400. Oh, is that not going to lock that? Yeah, it did. So that's 3,450. That'll do me. And let's see what we get with that test render. Too high up. Much too high up. Now why is that? Is that because this whole thing is not very tall? I suspect it could be. So I do it 1,000. Look at that. Right, I'm confused now. How would I set that to minus something? Possibly I had. Yeah, that's looking straight up. I want is 3,000. That's too far up. Set the target lower maybe. Oh, this is interesting. I still don't understand why it's so high up in the air. But I'll just change that to... Getting closer here. Oh, I think I've just realised why I'm getting rubbish. Yeah, that's a bit more like it. Right, okay. This version of Vista Lite seems very crippled compared to the version I had. The images are nowhere near as good as what I could produce. This is too high up as well. This should be about 800, I reckon. Ah, this is getting more like it, right. This is definitely getting a lot more like it. Okay. Just bringing that camera down a little bit more. And I think I've got the light facing the east. Can I do it northeast? No. Oh, you can change it. Yeah, so if I change it, it's east. Actually, you want it there. Okay, that's a bit more like it. Right, now I've got a horrible feeling that I had another application that I was using to make an animation path, because what I can do is render several of these frames and turn it into a animation, and I have got a horrible feeling that I had a program that actually did this for me, but then again, scripts generate I've got a feeling I have to click each time and make each frame, whereas I had a thing called make path or something like that where I just loaded in the file and then it would generate a script that I could load in from this thing. Unless this, does it do a beginning and an end? Not sure. And the images I'm getting I'm not entirely happy with. What does that do? Texture 8. Yeah, I used to get much better images than this. I think they've severely crippled this version. It's a bit... Render in ultra mode and see how it looks. I can see a couple of options I don't have on there actually. Okay, let's try that. Stick that on. Stick that on. What's that? Custom? Don't know anything about that. Oh, that's just a custom angle of the light. We'll try that. Yeah, that didn't work. I'll go back to what I had, I think. I don't know what double width and double height styles are. I'll probably look at this and realise I need neither of them. Goodbye. I hope I haven't permanently imprinted that on there now. No. Okay. I'm sure there used to be a river button, and you could... there we go, river. Right, I could be wrong, but I think I could do river, and then I could click a button, and then it puts a little river in for me. Let's see if that shows up. I used to love this application, it's fantastic. Yeah, shame that river looks a bit rubbish, so what I could do with is a lake. That's what I need, a lake up nice and high. Probably about to ruin this now. Yeah, I'm really... yeah, that's a lot of lake I've put in there. That is a lot of lake. But that isn't too bad, actually. I quite like that. I quite like that. I don't know if it saves it with the... I don't know if it saves it with that, but... Right, okay. Because you can't actually save what you're working, or can you? No, you can't. Landscape, fractal, da, da, da. See, there's actual, you could use actual real places. I think somewhere it's got a crater on Mars or something. Haze, what does that do? Oh, oops. Whatever it does, I've just changed it. I think it was 50 before. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Well, I think I'd like to try and animate this, so what I should do is try generate file name. Let's call it test2. Number of frames 100. Let's do it. Well, I want to do it 50 frames per second. So 100 is going to last 2 seconds. Intro, I want. I want it to be no more than 10 seconds, probably 5 or 7. So 350. Let's try that. No, hang on, 350. That give me 7 seconds. This isn't really prompting me as to what. Oh, I know what it's going to do now. So if I go script, add, and then I take the camera, and then I go, is it going to give me a... Right, okay, so that's quite a big old pan and spin. So if I go script, add, and then I go preview. Right, let me just flip across here. Yeah, so it's given me 2 scripts. That's that's the 2 frames basically. So what I want to do, that's handy. Scripts. I don't think that's where I save my scripts. Right, I bet you I could load that into... Yeah, so what has it done? Why have I got 2000 frames? That does look like it's changing something. maybe it has. It definitely looks like it's changed something, so maybe. Oops. Maybe that will generate something. Okay. Oh blimey, it's going to create an animation. I've got a slight problem here because I need somewhere that's going to have enough space to take these few hundred files. And I don't actually think I've got enough space on the drive because it's running real close to full. So what can I do is the next question. And what I can do is start finding things to make some space. So let's see if this works anyway. That's the important thing. I might try this and it does nothing. I'll do, just call it MyAnim. And we'll see how many frames it renders. I don't think this is going to be the most thrilling of videos if I'm actually it's worth sitting here and see if it's gone to 2. It's gone to 3, it's going real quick. Oh, I might have a flick across to Workbench. Oh no, I can't see it because it's all going into that animation, isn't it? I was thinking it was rendering stills, but it's not. Oh, I'll just have to let it crack on, won't I? What excitement. Well, I'll just pause this for now then, and I'll come back in a bit. Right, well, it's only about 3/4 of an hour later, and not too far off finishing the render on 324 frames of 350, and it actually has been progressing. If I pull this down and pull this down, I should see it is rendering, and it's this is really quick compared to what it was like on a real machine. I mean, I used to render a frame, blimey, I mean I've got pretty much all the highest settings on here. I used to render a frame at the highest settings, maybe 1 an hour at best. There wasn't much on the screen, probably 2 hours, even with the FPU. I mean, I was only using the stock processor, 40 megahertz on my 1200, and I also had an earlier version of Vista that came with Amiga format in about 1991, maybe 92. I think it was 91. Which is a really, really good application to give away. I think it's the best thing they ever gave away on the front of their magazines. I'm not sure what this is going to look like at the end of this, but it does give me a chance to show off another of the Amiga's features, which is it was separate screens, something that nobody does. But the Amiga had independent screens, and even It doesn't matter about color palettes, you could display everything on the same display, because Amiga used a really clever way of chopping its screens up. But you could have all these different, because it was a true multitasking system, you could have all these different displays running at the same time. And this mode, I mean, these are normal planar modes here, so that's probably a 32 color, 16 color screen actually. This is a 16 color screen as well because it's high res. But this is what they call Ham 8, and this Ham 8 screen should in theory have access to 262,000 colours. And the way that works, there was also on the original Amigas Ham mode, which was gave access to all 4096 colours in theory. And the way it worked was by having a really clever system whereby you only changed one of the colour values after every pixel, which meant it took a few pixels to actually change to one completely different colour, so you effectively lose a bit of colour resolution to get more colours, if that makes sense. And generally speaking, in most images where you didn't have sudden transitions of the colour, it worked really well, although you get this slight fringing. It looks a little bit like as if you're looking at Anaglyph 3D almost, where you've got the blue and, well, green and the red filter. Oh, is that it finished? Okay, that was a bit strange. So it seems to sort of not really follow. I've got a feeling this is not going to be anything like what I wanted, and then all of a sudden it's going to be a lot of slow motion, and all of a sudden it jumps to that nice end frame. So I think I'm going to have to look at this again. But anyway, we can have a look at the animation and see how it looks. So let's just bring this to the front. Now, this is for VM. Now, I'm not sure what these VM files are. I've got a horrible feeling I'm not going to be able to decode them to anything. But where is it? I think I'm in the wrong. This is a really horrible request. Right, so this is 90 megs, this file. Oh my goodness, it looks really good. A bit of stuttering. Maybe that's why it suddenly leaps around just those last couple of frames. It might. No, it's not turning or anything. This would never play back like this on a real machine. This is because I'm running in an emulator and it's giving me really smooth animation. Because the ham mode was too slow to play back. I mean, maybe with a really accelerated machine you might pull this off, but that's really smooth. So yeah, something definitely went wrong with this render. It didn't finish where I wanted it to finish over the other side. You can sort of see the horizon moving there. So yeah, I think what you would normally do is that you'd have it configured so it outputted 24-bit. If you were going to use this in production, you'd want it to output in 24-bit frames, and then you'd manually transfer that to a video medium, I guess. And if it was going to film, then you'd, I guess, have some kind of you might even print it directly to film actually. But anyway, I mean, this isn't going to be what I use, I don't think, because it's not quite turned out as I wanted it to. But it gives you an idea of how this works and what you can produce with a. This was an item that was on a cover disc 20 years ago. And they actually did put the full version out, the Vista Pro 3, towards the end of the magazine, See Amiga, I think. So And if you manage this correctly, you could get really good output. I mean, it was professional. I mean, this is professional quality. Even in '96, you could get away with this on a real TV show. Worse than this was going out. I think they used it on the chart show in the early '90s, maybe '92, '93. Anyway, I've gone through the full setup. I don't know how to get out of this now. There we go. Hit escape. I've gone through the full setup. I'll do one thing I'll do before. Let's just see if that is supported in multi-view. Get this window to the front. It might be just a normal animation, or it might have some real simple compression that you can figure out. I'm in the wrong folder because I've managed to install it twice. No, I'm still in the wrong folder. I've got a feeling this might cause a problem because it's quite a large file. And this will probably try and load the whole thing into memory. There should be enough memory to do it. Yeah, I think that's the last we've seen of that. Anyway, yeah, so that's quite interesting. So yeah, we've gone through the whole installation of Workbench. We put KingCON on there and put VirusZ on there to make sure we didn't have any nasties creeping around. And, or at least be fairly sure there's no nasties creeping around. And then we had to play with an actual productivity application that was using professional scenarios, sort of, and yeah, it just gives you an idea of what you can do with the Amiga and what a versatile machine it was. Bearing in mind this was, you know, with enough time you could do stuff that compared with some of the top workstations at the time. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount different between this setup we've got here and what was available around 92 to the top end people. Anyway, if you stuck with me for this whole thing, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Please feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. You get more of these type of videos. I'm going to do some more cover disk reviews. I think probably some more general application reviews in the near future. Or, you know, overviews, just go through the stuff and see what happens. And yeah, there's still a few things I can only do on the Amiga, incredibly. I think the song went, "Oh, the Amiga," something, you know, like that. There's quite a few things I think have occurred to me I can still only do on the Amiga. Anyway, really appreciate you following this, and I'll keep on trying to do stuff as long as, you know, people want me to. So thanks for watching, and until next time, I've got a few things planned and I'll see how they pan out. I want to do something about CD-ROMs. I'll catch you all later. Thanks for watching. Toodle pip and all that. Bye bye.